Conflicting claims about what's happening with a gang inside an apartment complex in Aurora. We'll stop, go back to the start, and lay things out step by step. An election denier ordered by a judge to put up his evidence or pay a $1,000 a day fine is now warning of coming violence. And a family that lost a mother and father in the East Troublesome fire is determined to stay and rebuild.
I still look around and see nothing but beauty.
That's tonight on Next. The swirl of claims about a Venezuelan gang's activity in Aurora has included conflicting statements from Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman. First, that areas of the city are out of their control. Then, that he wasn't talking about the gang. That led to the apartment complexes had fallen to the gang. Mayor said that on Fox News. Well, now he's back to saying that he agrees with police that there has not been an apartment complex taken over. It's confusing. And that's just one person talking about this. Our Kelly Rinke digs into the timeline for one property, Whispering Pines, near Colfax and Chambers.
Apartment complexes in Aurora, owned by the same company, are at the center of a national media frenzy. Conversations locally about a citywide takeover began earlier this summer. On July 29th, conservative councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky wrote on Facebook about a large gathering at a shopping center parking lot. Venezuelan flags were flying among thousands who took over and completely shut down a part of our city, she said. 2 days later, Mayor Mike Kaufman shared a similar thought on talk radio.
If you know Aurora, then what you know is we have areas in our city, unfortunately, that have been overtaken and that we have to take back.
A week after that interview, a property owner of troubled apartment complexes in Aurora made public claims that Tren de Aragua took over their buildings. APD and city leaders were warned on August 9th about problems at one of those properties, Whispering Pines. In a 10-page report, a law firm representing the lender holding the mortgage said it appeared the Venezuelan gang has forcefully taken over the property. They wrote issues with gang members began in late 2023, claiming gang members violently broke into empty units, tried to extort tenants for rent money, even severely beating a staff member in November of last year. Records show the property manager filed a police report last November, claiming he was punched around 20 times. The police report says there was no gang involvement or motivation in the case. Prosecutors filed charges against the suspect in July for felony menacing and misdemeanor assault. 1 month after receiving the law firm's 10-page report, Mayor Mike Kaufman is sharing a different opinion, now agreeing with APD's interim chief that a Venezuelan gang is not in control of either of those two apartment complexes.
So in that same post, Mayor Kaufman said the city offered to place 2 police officers for 2 weeks at apartment complexes. The only condition is that the owner has to have property managers on site, and according to his post, they're still waiting on a response from them.
So we get conflicting messages from some people in charge at the city level. Then you just have differences of opinions when you go down to the complexes as we have and you talk to folks, right? Some of them want to stay, some of them want to leave, some fear the gangs, some fear the white supremacist rhetoric that is now attracted to this issue. Like, different people have different experiences.
It's really confusing and it's hard to keep track. Even Mayor Kaufman in his post said when he talked to tenants last night, the tenants in that group, in that meeting, were saying that they want to stay and they're fearful of the complex being shut down. So it's really hard to keep track of all of these differing opinions. Depending on who you go to, you may hear a different response.
Yeah, it feels like the one uniting issue is that the conditions at a lot of these apartments are unacceptable, and like that has to be fixed. And then there's a question of like who's responsible for that. Kelly, thank you very much. So as each new claim about Aurora surfaces, we try to verify whether it's true. So take the claim that the gang, Tren de Aragua, is involved in child prostitution in Aurora. We had not heard that from anyone on any side of this issue until 2 days ago. So where did it come from? It's from a report prepared by a law firm working for the lender who holds the mortgage on the Whispering Pines apartment complex. In that report, it is cited as a third-hand anonymous claim. Someone told someone who told the law firm, which then notified the city of the claim on August 8th. We have not been able to determine if this claim is true. We continue to look into it. It's not one of the crimes that's been linked to the recent arrests of suspected gang members. Yet this week, Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, in a letter to the Biden administration, said that the gang's sexual abuse of children in Aurora was, quote unquote, confirmed. So today we asked her how she confirmed that.
This is a nonpartisan law firm that has come out with this. This is information that is vetted. It is nonpartisan, and it's our most evident form of the allegations that have been presented with Tren de Aragua here in Aurora, Colorado.
Boebert then went on to blame the media, saying that asking her how she confirmed the anonymous third-hand report was part of a cover-up by journalists. Boebert was in town participating in a discussion with other Republican elected officials and candidates discussing Aurora and border issues. Elected Democrats from the area did not participate in the Republican event today. Aurora Councilwoman Crystal Murillo, who represents the area where the apartment complexes are located, explained why.
I have no interest in spreading misinformation and participating in a fake listening session. I think it's also just disappointing to see how people are spreading false information, misinformation for their own political gain.
That GOP roundtable on Aurora today continues a trend that we have seen this week, where Republicans are now positioning Congresswoman Boebert as the new face of their party's claims about gangs in Aurora, and how they're also mixing those claims with fundraising and campaign events designed to benefit the Republican candidate for Congress in the 6th Congressional District, which covers Aurora. So, not sure how many Coloradans think about the East Troublesome Fire on a regular basis. It was 4 years ago. But for those impacted, remembrance and recovery continue to this day. It was 2020 when that fire burned nearly 200,000 acres and killed 2 people, a husband and a wife. Their family shared their story with our Mark Salinger.
Pretty much everything in the surrounding area was consumed, and we've been plugging along for 4 years now, trying to get things back, and the home will be the crowning jewel on the efforts.
When one chapter ends, a new one begins.
Growth, tons of it.
Glenn Heilman knows getting to the next phase isn't always easy.
I think my parents would have been very disappointed if we had not continued on their legacy.
Construction crews now fill the land outside of Grand Lake that Glenn and his family have owned for more than 70 years. A new house replaces one filled with so many memories.
They estimate that the fire came through here at about 10 o'clock that night. So 15 minutes after I spoke to them, they were lost in the fire.
The yellow house in the mountains that Glenn's parents built together burned in the East Troublesome Fire of 2020. Lyle and Mary Lynn Heilman died inside.
They were together at the place they loved the most, and that's where their lives concluded.
Little survived the fire. Everything that did will forever be a part of the story here.
My mom was absolutely adamant. No, I want my ashes spread between the 2 trees. They were significant to my parents, and therefore they were significant to us.
The flames spared these trees and left the family flag barely hanging on.
During the fire and after the fire, when we arrived 8 days later, there were still remnants of that flag that were still intact, and we were amazed by it. So we retrieved those tattered remains of the flag, and respectfully we brought that down, and then we raised a new flag in honor of my parents.
The physical recovery can be different from the mental one. Glenn wrote a book to share his parents' story through the final chapter.
Something isn't right, she added.
So that everyone will remember the yellow house in the mountains and the people who loved it.
It was now 10 o'clock. Glenn called his parents back. There was no answer. That's kind of tough. I haven't read that in a long time. Probably a year since I've read that. But lots of memories. But it was a beautiful ending to 2 beautiful lives.
Grand Lake is hosting its Troublesome Fest this weekend. Every year, the festival brings people together to celebrate community instead of dwell on what was lost. They also focus on fire mitigation and education up there in Grand County. Glenn will be out this year handing out his book to make sure his parents' story is not forgotten for years to come. Kyle.
Wow, just incredible resilience. Mark, thank you. So there are 500,000 kids in Colorado schools who are building a happier, more inclusive future for all of us through the Special Olympics United Champion Schools program. If you have seen these sports programs in action, you know what I'm talking about. That statewide effort is the focus of this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign. The Unified Champion Schools program is in nearly 700 schools statewide, and they'd like to expand that. Classmates with and without intellectual disabilities become teammates to the roar of the crowd. This is the kind of thing that binds together students and families and whole communities. And through a special collaboration, our donations to the Special Olympics Colorado are going to be doubled this month. Colorado Youth Sports Giving Day kicks off a month where the Daniels Fund and some other philanthropic partners are offering a dollar-for-dollar match for gifts to some youth sports nonprofits. And they have generously agreed to partner with this week's Word of Thanks campaign in their match. They will double all of our donations. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate to Special Olympics Colorado. More than 3,000 of you have signed up to simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. That's meant we've started your recent micro-giving campaigns with $22,000 in donations for each nonprofit. You can use that same QR code or text to get there. An election denier in Colorado faces an expensive choice: provide proof of his claims or pay $1,000 a day. He now says he would like some financial support. And a good news first, we take our favorite Friday question to a rock show. This is not the rock show that I imagined, but we will find good news there anyway. Next. The election denier, ordered by a judge to pay $1,000 a day until he complies with a court order to provide proof of his claims, is now saying he won't pay it. But podcaster Joe Oltmann also suggested that he's likely to be asking his supporters for financial help.
They said, we're going to find you in contempt.
Joe Oltmann does a lot of talking, mixing calls for executions of his political opponents with predictions of coming political violence.
I said I want to send the media to the gallows, the mainstream media to the gallows, radical leftists to the gallows, traitors to our nation to the gallows, and they all kind of fit in the same bucket.
And now the conservative podcaster from Douglas County has been told to put his money where his mouth is, ordered by a judge in Colorado to provide proof of his election rigging claims or pay $1,000 a day to the Coloradan that he accused of fixing the 2020 election. That would be Eric Coomer from Denver-based Dominion Voting Systems.
And I'll be damned if I'm going to write a check to that piece of
This week on his podcast, Oltmann suggested he would defy the court order, but also said he might hit his listeners up for money.
Probably put out something that asks for your support.
Oltmann, a longtime business owner in Dougco, has bragged about his supposed wealth, but now his tone has changed.
We'll figure it out. Everything that I have is in my retirement, so it's should be easy. I've worked my entire life and literally have to walk away having nothing because of these pieces of trash.
Oltmann's conspiracy theory that Dominion worked with Antifa to rig the election made it all the way up to Donald Trump, where it was repeated. But Oltmann refused to provide proof, going so far as to walk out of a deposition in Denver to avoid questions, hence the contempt of court order, the daily fine, and this comment that he made about judges this week.
But did you know that judges actually remove their names and information from anywhere? That they can literally hide their addresses as if they don't exist. Scrubbed.
Oltmann closed his program with another prediction of coming violence.
And November is going to be the start of something very, 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 very kinetic. Now, do I want that to happen? No, I don't. But I don't want my children to be groomed either. I don't want perverts and Satanists to be the one that gets the last word.
Oltmann's extremism and talk of violence has not caused him to be shunned by other Colorado Republicans. He was nominated for governor from the floor of their 2022 state assembly. Gubernatorial nominee Heidi Ganahl went on Oltmann's show to accept his endorsement that year. And Congresswoman Lauren Boebert recently held an event at his gun store. Tonight's next question was only asked by about half Colorado today. Audrey, Asher, Barbara, Guy, Kenneth, Mike, a bunch of others wrote in asking about that white object floating in the sky above the Northern Front Range. UFO, spy balloon, something else? It was something else indeed. This balloon is part of the Statellite high-altitude balloon systems. It belongs to a space tech company called Worldview Enterprises. They say it's carrying a payload for NASA that's measuring solar radiation in the stratosphere. The balloon was launched from northern Arizona last Saturday. The balloon's called a Griffin Stratolite. It flies between 45,000 and 75,000 feet in the air. Corey Reppenhagen, I'm a bit of a dummy myself, so I had to confirm with you that that's way higher than the planes, right? The planes are like at 30,000, then the balloon is way up top.
Exactly, and a lot of those were designed to do research in the stratosphere, and so when they launch those high-altitude research balloons, they like to do it when the air pressure's high and the jet stream winds are low, which is usually a clear blue day like today, and that's why we always get a really good look at those stratolite balloons. Here we clear skies across the Front Range tonight here. Temperatures in the low 80s here. Centennial Airport refusing to send a current temperature until I take this tie off, so thank you for your support there. Forecast low temperatures going through the day for tomorrow morning. If we don't drop below 50 degrees tomorrow morning, it'll be the 99th consecutive day, which means we'll be chasing a record here. And if we don't, I think we could get this record here for the longest streak above 49 degrees because we got a lot of warm mornings in the forecast. Here's your forecast high temperatures for tomorrow. We could touch 90 degrees tomorrow on the Front Range and Eastern Plains, but in general, it'll be an upper 80s kind of day. And if you look at the 7-day forecast here, we do have some chances to hit 90 degrees during the week, and we're looking at very little rain chances here on the Front Range all the way into next weekend.
I just love it. Look around. It's just the funnest, most vibey place to be.
Yeah, the vibes are high. For our weekly trip into the headlines of your life, set the news aside for a minute and just tell us, what's your good news? We've been ending each week with your good news in your own words for 396 weeks now. That rocks.
Well, I think it's really good news for the Denver area. People come from all over the world.
I've never met anyone that's sad at a rock show. You know what I mean? Like everyone that comes here is excited about rocks, and this is like heaven for them.
I just love it. Look around. It's just the funnest, most vibey place to be.
That's not a happy face. That's a arr. My good news is that I managed to get here super early. And I found some really exciting things. So jewelry, I found like lots of really cool bracelets.
What I love about rocks, to really dig in a point here, is doesn't matter who you are, everyone connects with Mother Nature.
And then you got a deep blue agate with some sagonetic agate at the very, very end.
These big, giant, like gorgeous crystals.
So this is an amazing example of vanadinite, and underneath all this black, that's goethite.
These are geodes right here.
So it's an expression of the planet in that place, in that moment in time, whether it's 1,000,000 years old or 100,000 years old, it's different expressions of the earth.
I definitely appreciate stones just like a numismatist would appreciate coins, or a card collector would appreciate them, in the sense that I'm looking for materials that have very minimal damage.
The reveal.
Like I said, no one's ever been sad at a rock show.
Amazing. Yes.
I did not expect the rock show to be so joyful, right? That was fun. That was good. Marilyn has your feedback, which means I have your feedback next. Ken doesn't like that election denier Joe Oltmann is getting fined until he goes back into the deposition and provides evidence of his claims. Ken says, no free speech on this topic, eh? Well, so this involves a defamation suit, Ken. So what the court is looking at is, where is the line between free speech and then speech that, say, puts somebody's life in danger, ruins their business, that kind of thing. That is ultimately what the court is going to decide. Jim says the press, including 9 News, keeps validating the Aurora gang rumors by more broadcasting. Rumors do not need coverage until they are facts. So, Jim, we know that the gang is present, they're dangerous, and police are trying to get rid of them. And the bottom line is there are a lot of unscrupulous outlets just reporting these things into the atmosphere. So it's incumbent upon us to be in there trying to sort fact from fiction.